When it comes to Pet Sematary, I have a lot to say. In so many words, it's a masterpiece. Now, that doesn't have to ring true for you. We might have very different opinions of what is defined as something of outstanding artistry, skill, or workmanship. But that's just what this nasty little piece of grief from 1989 truly is. For me, this might be the first film to actually scare me to my bones as a young kid. For some reason, I don't put Jaws in that category. Technically, he's still the king and owns that throne. But coming into my own and being aware of scary films, watching this as a young boy ruined my elementary and middle school life. I should explain. See, I was raised in a very religious environment, and no harm in it. I'm not even knocking or saying I would change any of my circumstances. However, for whatever reason, I was lucky enough to grow up with parents who loved movies. I don't know if I would call them cinephiles, but they made sure to always have films they loved around. I mean, they had a VHS collection and they were extremely particular, especially about which ones I watched as the oldest of 3 siblings. The religious part was heavy, as was the constant youth and church groups I attended. Sometimes it was up to 3 times a week, Sundays, Wednesdays, and the occasional Friday. I was dropped off at youth groups with older kids, eventually made it all the way to a church camp deep in the Blue Mountains by Hell's Canyon, Oregon. When you think camp, you can picture all the fun for rowdy 12-year-old teens. Prayer, breakfast, lunch, wanting to go to the girls' segregated side, and then more prayer, more worship, more service. At night, however, things got interesting. The cabin I ended up would play practical jokes, partake in the usage of contraband, and tell the most hellish ghost stories, God is my witness. Well, on that fateful evening, oh my brothers, I heard a sophomore tell me the story of Zelda and all the horrors of Stephen King's most terrifying novel ever in Pet Sematary. It didn't even make sense. How could someone describing something fireside bring about such majestic and fear-inducing depictions of a side character? If I thought hearing the story was bad, well, the next bit was altogether cruel. What proceeded to take place is etched and tattooed into my subconscious for the rest of my life. That trusty 19-inch Magnavox fired up some backwoods homebrew taped from cable of the scariest piece of imagery I'd ever imagined. And I was hooked. What makes Pet Sematary so fucking perfect is it the fact that the screenplay is penned by none other than the master of horror himself, Stephen King? Does it help the fact that it was directed by the great Mary Lambert, known mostly from MTV music video fame? No shame, but a female does give the first 20 minutes a certain frailty and handles the prosper of a new home and family rather delicately, to be honest. She peers into the details of unpacking with shots of the first night, exploring Ellie's makeshift bed sprawled out across the bedroom floor, coupled together with Gage's rambunctious ways and the housekeeper Missy Dandridge's stomach pain. We feel like we are at the forefront of this universe, this new move, before things go spiraling terribly, terribly wrong. Trauma? Don't even get me started on how effective of a grief piece this film turns out to be. And sure, Zelda haunted my dreams, but so did Gage, the Ramones, and Sheena is a punk rocker. The scene in the funeral to this day makes a rock-sized crater in my stomach as that casket goes clanking onto the floor and Gage's hand falls out. How about the Orinco truck that flashes into our conscious view, the photos and memories of the young Gage as Lewis screams like a man possessed? The shit is scary. The changing of the seasons, the dead gives way to life. Everything is meticulous. Everything in Pet Sematary is deliberate. It's hard to make a semi-truck a side character, but they also happen to open the film. They show up in every pivotal piece of the storyline. From the beginning, Church's death to Gage's, 18 wheels and 80,000 pounds of fucking sprawling character development and emotional damage. I have so many favorite scenes in this film. Too obvious beyond the yowl of the Russian blue church, one of the best is that panned out shot when the music changes for our discovery of the Micmac burial ground and Judd Crandall's chain smoking and eventual death via Marlboro Reds. My favorite scenes to this day have to do with the 2 new besties, Lewis and Judd. Them cracking a beer and cheersing to your bones just makes me feel good. That's something that I've always wanted in my life, an outside porch with a new neighbor, sharing a cold bottle of suds. There's something universally appealing to that, even as a little kid, that I trusted this character. Maybe it was the monster in me. Maybe that's why I felt so safe when Judd was around. When Judd peers into the doorway later after exposing him to the power and says, "Women are the ones that are supposed to be good keeping secrets," Anyone who knows anything will tell you she's never seen into a man's heart. The soil of a man's heart is stonier. As things continue to worsen throughout the film, on comes my favorite scene. The spine-chilling recollection of Timmy Baterman and what came from the ragman back all those years ago. To this day, and hell even last night upon rewatching it for the 500th time, I rewound that scene right on cue. Judd's depiction and retelling is so fucking perfect, I just can't even put it into words really. This is what true horror cinema is for me, and you can't tell me any different. Fred Gwynne's performance makes everything he knows truly terrifying. How can he know all the things he's seen and still function like a normal adult? The thought used to keep me up at night, and it still kind of does. To this day, he's one of the best supporting horror characters ever. And that's no fucking joke. If the following story didn't make you feel like convinced that Pet Sematary should be a part of your Halloween watch list, well, then I really don't know what to tell you. There is something so magnificent about Pet Sematary. From a very early age, as long as I can remember, I remember going into a Hollywood video, the $24.99 sticker, and seeing Pascal on the cover, Gage on the back with the scalpel. Walking back to Roy Rayleigh Park in Pendleton, Oregon with my brand new copy. I was in 6th grade. It was a life-changing, earth-shattering moment, a watershed moment for me, really. I brought it back and I went to my friend's house and we watched it. That scared everybody to death. Not just Zelda, but just the overall scope, the overall tone. This was a real fucking movie. This was a real problem with things that you had to contend with that I just wasn't used to growing up. Pet Sematary changes seasons. It does such an amazing job with tension, with mood, with its scope, with its deliberateness, like we said before. And I think that having Stephen King not just cameoing in this film, but him penning the thing, makes it so, it feels so relatable. It feels like it was written by your uncle. It feels like you're a part of the solution. It feels like this could happen to you. And as long as I've been, 12, it's been, 30 fucking years pretty much at this point since I watched that film. And it's still one of the most important films that I own out there. I have it on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K twice, and I'll probably buy every single issue that comes up. There's a new one out there that I'm going to have to get. It's that important to me. I know it frame by frame. I know every single time the lighting changes. I've studied this film. This is my favorite novel. I read this in the back of a Winnebago on a flea market camping trip that took 6 hours with my parents. I bought the novel for 50 cents on a table and I read it, and it scared me and kept me up at night. And I fucking love it. Pet Sematary is one of the most important films in my horror journey, in my horror canon, that I can return to the well. Even last night I was like, fuck, I gotta do this, man. I gotta go through Rachel coming home. I gotta go through Gage's death. I gotta go through Missy Dandridge in the fucking basement, hanging there. I can see every little part of her nylons falling down, how bad her shoe color is, how she's just in pain. It is effective. It still moves me to this day. I think about it. That choking sound that she has. I think about fucking Lewis trying to get up through the loon's nest and trying to make his way through the fucking debris on the way to the Micmac burial ground. I remember how long it took him to fucking get through the fucking stone, the concrete, when he's hitting the spike and it's pinging off, and Judd's just chain smoking cigarettes. I can hear the Orinco trucks. I can hear the music. I can hear the punk rock. I can see Ellie putting up the little October pumpkin on the window and changing the season. I hear everything. I see it. And I'm just in love with this film. It's one of my favorite movies. It's in my top 10, absolutely, 100 times over. If you weren't sure, The Exorcist, The Evil Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Thing, Pet Sematary is in there, okay? It's that important to me. I know people have problems with Lewis's character being a little stony, a little stoic. Get the fuck out of here. When I see that actor, like, I'm that nerd. I was thinking this last night watching this. I'm that nerd that would go to conventions because you were such a part of my childhood. I just want to meet this dude. Like, forever, he's immortal. Obviously, the great Fred Gwynne. everybody. Mary Lambert, I love Pet Sematary too. I love everything that she's done because of this film. This film is a part of my entire personality in a way. It scared me so bad, and it's a part of all my friend groups. I don't know anybody that doesn't like Pet Sematary. And if you are one of those people, I hope that my story tonight, this October, maybe you can watch it from a different lens. Don't think of it as 1989. You need to watch this and picture yourself as 10, 11 years old, finding this on USA Cable on accident, going to a church camp and having to be shown this film with a group of friends. That fucked me up, man. It fucks me up today when I think about it. I was made to be obsessed with horror because of my consequences and my experiences and the way that I spent my early childhood development. I was told you can't watch that, so of course I like a moth to a flame, man. Pet Sematary, I love you so much. I love this film. I love everything about it, and I love you guys. I hope you'll stick with me this Halloween. That's what people say. But really, if you listen to my story and you get anything out of it, give this film another chance. You'll be glad you did. Love you. Cheers.